So, as I was to start on my first year of college, I realized that I needed to financially support myself. Broke as hell. I didn't have the greatest GPA or rich parents to help me get through college, so I started looking for a job. After some thought and research, I eventually ended up deciding on a Subway. For some reason, after I applied, I got called immediately the next day and asked for an interview. Next day goes by, I get to the restaurant, and the guy interviewing me is looking at some sort of script. After a couple minutes, he looks up and says, "I'm gonna be honest with you, I forgot what sort of questions I'm supposed to ask you." And then he proceeded to tell me, "When can you start working?" After that, he scheduled me for the next day. So I showed up like 2 hours late because he said, "See you on Saturday," but didn't really say a time. But regardless, I show up, and keep in mind, this is supposed to be my first day of training. I introduced myself to my new coworkers. Oh yeah! And after a little bit of chatting, my training officially started. So Matt, who was also the assistant manager, taught me how to make a super basic sandwich. He proceeded to make the most basic 6-inch ham, and then he says, "There goes your training. I hope you paid attention." Literally right after that, him and his coworker go to the back, and I'm alone in the line, and customers walk in. So of course, I had to go bug him like, "What the hell, bro?" I had no clue how the menu was, what kind of breads we had, or how much protein goes in what, how much veggies. They both looked disappointed at me, and I was stressed. I didn't sign up to start working immediately. I thought it was gonna be some sort of training. I thought we were gonna do anything crazy. I thought I was gonna watch, take notes maybe. Matt, well, on the other hand, wasn't too upset at me. He said, "Don't worry, dude. I'm only doing this because this is how I was trained as well." I'm like, "But you could have been the change. You could have been the difference." After such a mess of a first day, I talked to my girlfriend, who also applied and started her training a day before me. She was already very praised and liked by both our coworkers. She immediately started getting praised, and she was told she was a natural. After hearing this, I'm not gonna lie, it hurt my spirit a little bit, but I didn't give up. But it gets so much worse. So the people who trained us were the morning/opening crew. But after our training was done, we got moved officially to start on the closing shift with 2 brand new coworkers. And it turns out closing duties are way different than the opening duties, meaning that most of our training it was just gone to shit. Let's just say that our 2 new coworkers were not the most patient people. We were getting yelled at every mistake we made. They would even yell at customers, and whenever they would feel stressed, they would just leave and smoke. So yeah, I wasn't having the best of times. At this point, anybody would have left by now, but for some reason, I didn't give up. So in order to get used to the workspace, I did a lot of homework and practice everything on my own time. Also, I didn't know if this is normal, but our Subway had a drive-thru. And I'm sure this is normal now, but apparently when I started working there, it was somewhat of a new gimmick. But anyways, yeah, the reason I bring this up is because how much of a stress factor it really was. So for context, my Subway had a total of 7 employees, 4 sandwich artists, 1 junior sandwich artist, whatever the hell that means, 1 assistant manager, and of course our manager. So our shifts would mostly be you and 1 other person for the most part. And it was manageable, simply because most of the time the days were pretty slow. Opening shift was obviously my favorite. I would just prepare some meat, cheese, and vegetables and relax till customers came in. Of course, there was more duties for opening than that. I would start my day at 10 a.m, but my coworker would actually open a store at 8 a.m. and do bread, cookies, and literally everything else before I even arrived. So I'm very grateful he made my life easier. He was a really cool, reliable guy. So opening was my favorite shift, of course. The store will be dead, only some people would come in for lunch, and we'll get a small rush here and there, but that's about it. I remember feeling confident for the first time and telling one of my coworkers, saying, "Hey, I think I finally adapted, don't you think?" He was quick to kill the mood. Said, "Ho, ho, ho, buddy, you have not experienced a real rush." Then proceeds to tell me the only reason I got hired in the first place was to work the night shift. The store only had 2 closers for a good while, and everybody who worked with those 2 closers would quit immediately after seeing how they were. So keep in mind, I was going to college full time. I told my bosses, "Hey, I can only do like maybe 20 or less," and then they proceeded to give me 30 hours a week, and they were all closing shifts. Okay, so back to the reason I brought up drive-thru, and here's why drive-thru made it so much more stressful. So while Subway mostly has 2 employees per shift, there would be a time period we would have 3 people clocked in. So our Subway only provided 2 headsets for the drive-thru, right? So that means 1 person would be headset free. So when someone clocks out, of course, they leave their headset behind. And normally the people who clock in right after are supposed to pick it up and wear it. But remember, there's gonna be that one lucky person who doesn't have it. So most of the time the headsets will be laying there while we had cars outside honking. I was surprised how little some of these people cared sometimes. So here's how things would mostly go south. Our objectives were pretty simple in the afternoon especially. Wait for people to walk in, take their order, attend the drive-thru, and make some online orders. Maybe some dishes here and there. Sounds simple, right? Well, yeah, you're correct. In theory, it was pretty simple. It just wasn't simple when you had to do everything at the same time. Rushes at Subway were a living nightmare. So our store was filled up inside. We had a line in the drive-thru, and online orders were coming in left and right. People were yelling at us, they were throwing stuff at the window, and it's just 2 poor Subway employees trying their hardest. This would happen so often that our management told us, "Hey, if this happens again, just ignore the drive-thru. You'll be fine." So I guess it's time I brought up something positive for once. We would get free food and drinks, but no lunch break to really enjoy it. One other thing, I guess, was tips. Most of the time, we would get a $1 tip here and there. And hey, I understand. I'll be demolishing those no tip buttons myself. No judgment. I remember one day, we all got a $50 tip. The only downside is that we all had to split it evenly. But yeah, let's say technically you were to get tipped in the drive-thru. That's a different story. Because you could sneak in the money into your pocket. And let's just say this would happen quite often. So after a couple months of grinding and working, I became a decent worker. Good enough to train the new employee. So I was designed to train a new kid. I was confident I was gonna give him some real training. So I go to work. I see the subway, it's pretty empty. No biggie. I'm sure Matt's in the back somewhere. The door was locked. So remember when I mentioned that Matt would open the store at 8 a.m? Well, yeah, it was around 10 a.m. And yeah, the store was very much closed. So yeah, I had no key to the store. Only higher ups who were trusted with them. So yeah, I had zero way to get in. Some guy walks up to me and he's like, are you guys open? And I'm like, oh, sorry, my coworker's probably busy or something. Then he says, oh, actually, today's my first day to work here. So I ask him his name and how long he's been waiting outside. And he proceeds to tell me he's been waiting outside for 2 whole hours. So I call up Matt. And surprisingly, he picks up immediately. He proceeds to tell me a story about how he was so drunk last night that he left his keys in a bar that is currently closed as we speak. He told me to contact our district manager because he has a spare key with him, but apparently he was too busy to help at the moment. Then I get a call from my manager, all angry, asking why is nobody clocked in. So yeah, communication was great that day, apparently. After all of us were talking, deciding, we came to the conclusion that we're gonna wait for a district manager for him to be not busy so he could come help. So me and the new kid waited outside for 2 more hours. As I tried any other method to get inside, customers were trying to get in, but thankfully, only one semi-uniform and walked up to me. I was ready to get yelled at, but she was actually really nice. Kinda. She was a nurse and she was on her lunch break and was getting impatient because this is her regular schedule apparently. I proceeded to give her context and she was actually really understanding and laughed it off. Some people had other stuff to say, let's just say that. After hiding in my car and telling the new kid to hide, a district manager finally shows up 2 hours later. As soon as he unlocked the door, not even 10 seconds go by and we get a swarm of people. So I did not realize that people were actually not leaving, meaning that some people actually waited the entire 2 hours. So of course we just opened and we had nothing to serve them. Our manager was super stressed and yelling all over the place. Thankfully he really liked me, so he wasn't yelling at me, but he was yelling at the new kid. So we had to speedrun preparation, and of course the new kid didn't know how to subway, so I had to speedrun and teach at the same time. Well, our manager yells at him for not knowing what to do anything. Eventually the manager snaps, kicks every customer out, and tells them that we're not gonna serve anything until 1 p.m. So he locks the door, kicks everybody out. So yeah, after that he just leaves. Like straight up, he just left. So I'm left to feed a bunch of hungry customers and teach the new kid how to subway. So yeah, that day wasn't my best day, but I think I did alright, kinda. So yeah, so the guy ended up quitting a couple days later, and that's when I realized that fast food ain't for the weak. So of course, before the video ends, I would like to give a special shout out to my girlfriend because obviously she did such an amazing job with the art. Of course, she did so many characters for this video and we both worked really hard on it, and we hope you guys liked it because we liked it and we worked hard on it. So you better like it. Actually, no, fuck it. Yeah, you better like this video. Get me out the trenches, please. But yeah, that's about it. I don't know, I really like making these kinds of videos, but I don't know if they're gonna become my main format. It just depends on how this video does, honestly. But at the end of the day, I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.